Hello everyone, Anne here, the little Frenchie in Big Texas. So today's video will be about homeschooling. It's that time of year, going back to school. Some of you might already have taken the decision to either homeschool or go to school, but others might be hesitating. And here is also some encouragement. I want to share my experience because I've been doing it for 2 years, almost 2.5. Started with the pandemics when I realized the local school district did not have anything planned for smaller kids. Mine were just finishing kindergarten, getting into first grade, learning how to read, write, and with a little computer screen, it's extremely hard if you don't know how to read. So that's when we started, and it's been 2 very interesting and enriching years. So I wanted to share with you my experience, the pros and the cons, meaning what went well, what I find as the big advantages of homeschooling, and the difficulties as well, because it's both here. And I hope by sharing my experience, I can help some other moms that maybe haven't taken the steps yet. And if your experience is different from mine, please leave in the comments below, share your experience as well. Let me know if you agree or not with my feedback here. But let's start with the pros. So what do I really like about homeschooling? And I think the first thing and the main thing for me is pretty much summarized in one word: flexibility. Meaning you can teach what you want, how you want it, when you want it. And this goes both ways, for you and for your students, of course, but for you as a parent, you choose your material. So you can focus on one material more than another. You can choose a full curriculum already made on the computer, or you can teach yourself. You can decide to include politics, race theory, all these stuff that are getting introduced in public school or not. It's your choice. And I understand here some states or even countries might have some stricter guidelines, some restrictions, something you really have to follow. So it's going to depend on where you live. But being here in Texas, there are no restrictions. So you can pretty much teach what you want and how you want it. And not that long ago, I talked to another homeschooling mom of quite a few kids, 5 or 6 if I remember correctly, who has been homeschooling for a very long time. And she started following a big curriculum, going through all the materials, kind of like school, And then she decided, no, let's not do it. I'm going to let my kids teach themselves, do what they want, learn at their own rhythm on the side, do side jobs, learn at the farm. So completely different approach. And it's your choice as parents on how you want to do it. If you want to spend the afternoon in the kitchen cooking with the kids to teach them about cups, measuring system, it's your call here as a parent. So you can teach what you want and how you want it, using the curriculum, the books that you like, the method that fits you. And as an example here, I had to teach them how to read. And the schools are teaching with the sight words, which to me, that's not the way I was taught, and I had some very mixed feedback. So I went back to the old methods of doing phonetics. So it was a different approach. I found the curriculum I liked, and we've been continuing, and they're doing really good and enjoying it. So you have to find what fits you and your student. So that we discussed the what, the how, and the other thing is the when. When meaning it's your choice here, how much time you spend and when you do it. You can do it in the morning, which usually works better for the students, or later in the day, or if you're working during the week, you can do more during the weekends. You organize your time, and it does not take as much time as you think. That's something key, because initially I was a bit woo, and all the person who I talked to, had the same concern. How do you do? They go to school from 8 to 3. It's a full day. Yeah, but what do they do between 8 and 3, between the recess, the games, the lunch? How much time is really focused on learning? Not that much. Not that much. And most homeschooling parents I talk to, they don't spend probably 3 hours a day max. So depending on how you spread it during the week, and it's also going to depend on how old your kids, because the smaller the kids, the less attention they have. So you need to do smaller segments. And the older kids, some of them can just carry on. You put them on the material and they just carry on themselves. But you don't need that much time. It makes it much easier on you and on the kid. And you can do it at the time that's convenient for you and for them. And for them is important too, because if I compare here with my local school district, to give you an example, they are running very low on drivers, bus drivers. It's been going on since the beginning of the pandemic. It's everywhere, anyway, we're missing drivers, shortage worldwide, I think, on the drivers, but it includes on the school. So what do? They are spreading the start and finish time, meaning some students start as early as 7 a.m. That's early, right? And that's the older students, but still 7 a.m. I mean, my girls are still sleeping at 7 a.m. I don't want to wake them up, and I don't have to because they're homeschooled. They can sleep until 8. If they're tired, maybe we watch a movie last night, 8:30. It doesn't matter. We'll start at 9, 10. We do at their own rhythm. So that's really something very important for me. The number one advantage is that flexibility of what you teach, how you teach it, and when you teach it. And it also, another example as well, at school, they have to follow the rhythm, the curriculum, meaning 1 week is dedicated to that, maybe 2 weeks, and then they have to move on, whether the kids are ready to move on or not. You know, some might take longer to learn, others not that much. But when you've got 30 students, you just have to carry on, even if you got maybe a few in the class that still did not get it. But if you're at home and it's your kids, you can just take the time you need to get it through to them. And maybe it's not a matter of spending 3 weeks on a topic. Maybe you need to spend a few days, and if you see it's just not getting through, and I've done it a few times, I let it rest. I said, okay, let's forget about it for now. We'll come back to it in 3 weeks. And then you come back to it. And maybe the second time, it's going to be more ready in their mind and it's going to process faster. And so you've got that flexibility you might not have at school. So here also, it helps you not leaving kids behind, my opinion. So again, I'm just sharing my opinion and my experience here. I have twins and they're in the same grade, but they do not necessarily learn at the same pace. So it's a matter of spending time with one or the other, depending on how quickly they catch on one topic. And the last topic, which is very important as well, is safety and security in today's world. So we all know about the school shootings. There was one not that far away in Texas, not that long ago, with students that were barely older than my girls. That really affected me. And putting them in that classroom environment, not knowing what can happen, is not something I'm very comfortable with at the moment. And that's just one aspect of it. The other thing is the bullying that you have going on in all the schools. I mean, I read it in the news. We've got a neighboring news app where parents share, and it's everywhere, bullying, starting even at elementary school, and it gets worse with the grades. And it's everywhere. I mean, at the school, in the bus. And knowing your students are exposed to it, your kids, I mean, it doesn't affect some, but for others, it's a very bad experience. You have some kids that don't want to go just because they're afraid of being bullied, of meeting that boy or that girl that's bullying them. So that's something you do not face when you homeschool. It's just you and your kids. They are safe. They're with you at home. No bullying. So for me, these are really the main pros, I would say. Safety, security, flexibility, adapting to your kids, doing it their pace. And once again, to repeat, you do not need that much time to do it. You don't. And you don't have to be a math genius to teach math for the kids, because at a certain age, they catch on and they carry on by themselves. So don't get discouraged here. You can do it. This being said, not everything is perfect. You do have cons. And sharing my experience here, I would say at the very beginning, if you're starting mom or dad homeschooling, the first thing is, in my case, feeling overwhelmed. Meaning it's a big responsibility at the end. You know, myself, I went through my local school in France, the public system or semi-private and so on. It's much cheaper than here if it's private, but I followed the system pretty much, and I never considered homeschooling my kids. So having to do it, I was like, whew, where do I start? Especially teaching how to read and write in a foreign language for me. Like, my gosh, whew. Well, I'm learning at the same time, which is good. But it was a bit overwhelming responsibility, and it helped for me to speak to other homeschooling parents, do quite a bit of research on the internet. We're lucky to have a homeschooling store here in Houston, so I went there, I talked to other moms. All this helped. And just getting started, pretty much. Once I got started, I realized that it was not such a big deal. But it's really that first step, getting into it, that was, whew, can I really do it? Well, yes, I know how to read, I know how to write. You've done all this, you can do it. The second cons is more about money and budget, meaning depending on how you want to homeschool, it can get expensive. Meaning if you want to buy a full curriculum, brand new, one for reading, one for spelling, one for math, and so on, all the top subjects, it can sum up, especially if you've got different levels at the same time. So that's something really for you to consider, is alternative ways to lower your costs. And that can be used books. If you've got a used bookstore, it could be networking with other homeschooling parents who have used books and can give them up to you after they're done. And also for younger kids, you might find easier option than getting the full curriculum. You've got these scholastic books that are for sale at Costco, Sam's Club. I think now they're probably $12, $13. They cover a lot of topics, and just doing pages every day, it teaches the kids. So there are other options than spending $500 or more on full curriculum here for you to consider, because it can be expensive, especially if you're continuing paying your taxes, and it usually includes the local school district, which is usually not that cheap. At least here in Texas, it sums up very quickly, the property taxes and the school taxes included in there. And you're paying for something you're not getting, because you're not putting your kids at the public school system. So it can be frustrating in a way, having to pay the taxes for the school system, not getting benefits from it, and having to spend money on the other side to buy curriculum. So that's on the cons. You have to manage based on the budget you have to teach your kids the best way you can and the way you think is the right way to teach. Another disadvantage here that can happen, it doesn't happen to everybody, but at the end it can, is that they are your kids. Meaning you can get the attitude, It can be the, oh no, mom, I am not doing homeschooling today. No, I don't want to. Or, which I had a few times at the table, is when they were younger, and even now, they want to do it right, and all of a sudden they do it wrong, and I tell them, no, this is not correct, redo it. And they burst into tears. Would they do it in a classroom with the teacher? Probably not. You're the mom, I'm the mom, or you're the dad. And it's a different relationship here at the table, and when you teach. So that's something you have to overcome, especially the attitude and the no thing. But I think it improves along the way, because you start developing that relationship with the kids, you're closer to them, and it just goes improving. So it builds up, especially if you start at a young age. At the end, they're used to it. And it just goes faster and easier. So just for you to consider, it might happen depending on your kids, depending on your relationship with your kids. Just keep it in mind. Be prepared on that one. Another thing as well to consider is the social aspect, meaning some kids like to interact with other kids. Others are fine reading their books, doing their own thing, but others, they like to go and talk and meet and interact. And being homeschooled, you have less interactions with kids your age, like in the classroom, especially if you just have one or two kids. So it's something single one at home, it might be tough. So you need to think of other social activity for them to meet other kids, with other homeschooling mom, a local co-op. There might be other options available. for you to consider, as well as field trips to enrich what you do at home. And that's something we're really starting this year. Now that it's all cooling down a bit about the pandemic and so on, they're growing, so we want to do some field trips and meet other parents and kids in the area to get more social life, I would say, for them. So that's a bit of a summary here of my homeschooling experience. As you can see, for me, the pros outweigh by far the cons. I would definitely, and I hope you'll take it this way, this video, encourage you to, if you consider it, if you can do it, because if you are parents working, both of you, from 8 to 5, it makes it much harder. So you need to have some flexibility in your work schedule, like I do, for instance, to be able to do it. But if you can, I would definitely consider it. Give it a try and see whether it's working for you and for your kids, and decide what's best for them at the end. So I hope you found this useful. Once again, it is not that hard to do, and it doesn't take that much time. So give it some thoughts. If you got questions, please put in the comments below. If you want to share your experience as well, in the comments below, I appreciate all the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And if you know more other homeschooling parents that could be interested, please share it as well. Thank you all for watching.